إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, today's topic is an important topic. It's a topic that will help us to know how to behave for the rest of the year. It will help us to benefit every single week and reap the benefits of what we say and what we hear. As I was coming just today, about 15-20 minutes ago, for the Jumu'ah prayer, I had one of the young brothers comment and say, "You're looking sharp," or "You're looking," I forgot the exact word what he said, but "You're looking fresh." And so this is what this topic is about. As we all know, the year has 12 months. And he has 52 weeks, giving us 52 Friday khutbahs to attend in a year. The topics that we cover are vast and covers a wide range of topics, so wide that some of the khatibs, they complain of not knowing what to speak about. And others, they request ideas and topics from the people because according to them, they have discussed almost everything. And so with that in mind, we must ask, what effect have these khutbahs had in our lives? How are we different? The past 10, 20, 30 years that we have been listening to khutbahs again and again, how are we different? If the answers to these questions is not much, then another question must be asked, why? Why am I still the same person? Is it the khatib's fault every single time? Or is there something in me that needs readjusting? And so with that in mind, I would like to go over some of the etiquettes, some of the adab, and suggest 3 practical steps which will help us ensure that we take from the khutbah what the Prophet ﷺ intended that we take from it. Steps that will change our perception towards the Friday khutbah altogether. And so the first practical step is make sure that you are fully aware of how important this day is. That you are fully aware of how this day is to be prepared for. The same way that a football player does not come off the bench and goes into the field without prior warming up and stretching, a Muslim must ensure that the necessary preparations are made for the day of Friday beforehand. And that is in order for him to maximize the benefits so he's able to receive the guidance that he hears on this day. And so the first thing that he should do in order to prepare for this day is al-ghusl. The Prophet ﷺ, he explicitly said, إِذَا جَاءَ أَحْدُكُمُ الْجُمُعَةَ فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ, that if any one of you witnesses the Friday, then he should bathe himself. And he ﷺ, he also said, الْغُسْلُ يَوْمَ الْجُمُعَةِ وَاجِبٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُحْتَلِمٍ, that bathing or taking a ghusl on Friday is wajib upon every person who has reached the age of puberty. Now when you clean yourself physically, when you clean your physical body, then your spiritual body will be ready to receive the revelation that it is hearing. And number 2, wearing clean clothes. It is common knowledge that clean clothes has a significant effect on a person's sense of happiness and clarity of mind. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, he guided us on how we should be even dressing on this day. he sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, ما على أحدكم إن وجد ساعة أن يتخذ ثوبين لجمعته سوى ثوبي مهنته. That it will be good if you are financially capable to purchase 2 garments that is specifically for the day of Jumu'ah, rather than arriving in your work clothes. Now I understand that we all come from work, and so maybe one way that we can go ahead and practice upon this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and this advice of his is to have a spare thobe or a spare pair of shirt or whatever it is in our car, specifically just for the Friday prayer. The third, arriving early. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, من غسل يوم الجمعة واغتسل ثم بكر وابتكر ومشى ولم يركب ودنا من الإمام فاستمع ولم يلغ كان له بكل خطوة عمل سنة أجر صيامها وقيامها. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever washes on Friday and washes himself, whoever takes a shower and he takes a ghusl, meaning he fully cleanses himself, and then he goes early, arriving early, and he walks and he does not ride, and he sits close to the Imam and he listens to him, and he does not engage in any idle talk. For every step he takes, he will have the reward of 1 year's worth of fasting and praying. Allahu Akbar. 1 year's worth of fasting and praying. And not only that, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, come close and sit close to the Imam, not against the wall. Come and sit close to the Imam. We should humble ourselves before the words of Allah by sitting attentive and close to the khatib as much as possible. You sit close, you will be closer to Jannah. You sit far away, you will get distance from Jannah, even if you enter it. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said in the authentic hadith narrated in Sunan Abi Dawood, احضروا الذكر وادنوا من الإمام فإن الرجل لا يزال يتباعد حتى يؤخر في الجنة وإن دخلها. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, be present at the sermon and come close to the Imam. Verily a man, he continues to distance himself until he is delayed from Jannah, even though he will eventually enter it. Even though he will eventually enter it. Why? Just because he wants to go ahead and sit in the back, and no matter how many times we mention, brothers come close, it is as if we're talking to people who cannot hear us. Come close, and you will be coming close to Jannah. And the fourth or the fifth one is not disturbing people, not becoming a nuisance. The Prophet ﷺ, he would prohibit people from becoming a nuisance to others, even if it is separating between 2 people, just so you can go ahead and sit between them or go up front. And that is while the Imam is giving the khutbah. Actually, it happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, as he was giving the khutbah, and he said, Ijlis faqad adhayt. He said, sit down, you have caused harm, i.e. to the people. The Prophet ﷺ's aim was to remove every obstacle that may prevent people from benefiting on this day, and so we can leave the Jumu'ah khutbah as reformed individuals. And the fifth one is listening attentively to the khutbah. When we come to the masjid, when the Sahaba used to come to the masjid, they would make it a point that they would sit close to the khatib, and they would make sure that their hearts are attentive to what the Imam or what the khatib is saying. Imam al-Zuhri rahimahullah, he said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا أخذ في خطبته استقبلوه بوجوههم حتى يفرغ منها. Imam al-Zuhri rahimahullah, he said, whenever the Prophet ﷺ, he would begin his khutbah, the companions would turn their faces towards him until he finished his khutbah. The companions, they would turn their faces, even if their faces were not towards the Qibla, they would go ahead and change the direction of their faces, just so that way they can listen attentively, wholeheartedly, as well as physically to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They would not sit in the back stretching their legs, not look around or play with their phones or speak with the people next to them. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ was so keen for our hearts to be entirely with the khutbah that he would prohibit the listeners from telling even other people, be quiet. Even you telling others, don't talk. This was prohibited by the Prophet ﷺ. And Nabi ﷺ, he said in Sahih Muslim, إِذَا قُلْتَ لِصَاحِبِكَ يَوْمَ الْجُمُعَةِ أَنْصِتْ وَالْإِمَامُ يَخْطُبْ فَقَدْ لَغَوْتْ. If you say to your friend on the day of Jumu'ah, be quiet whilst the khatib is speaking, then you have engaged in idle talk. And the Prophet ﷺ, he also said, مَنْ مَسَّ الْحَصَى فَقَدْ لَغَى. That whoever touches the pebbles on the day of Jumu'ah while the Imam is giving khutbah, then he has engaged in idleness. Because in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was no carpets. So we could say that anyone who plays with the carpets, anyone who goes ahead and he plays and he fiddles with his phone, then he has committed that idleness which the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَمَنْ لَغَى فَلَا جُمُعَةَ لَهُ. And whoever engages in idleness, there's no Jumu'ah for him. Meaning what? That this person, his Jumu'ah prayer is going to count as the Dhuhr prayer, and he would have missed out on the reward of the Friday prayer. So when we are attending the khutbah prayers, we should not be speaking to one another. We should not be even initiating salam. As you enter and the khutbah is going on, we can't even say salam. Don't try to draw lines on the carpet. Don't fiddle with your hair or your clothes. Don't even though al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, is highly recommended, emphasized in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, yet this is the only time the Prophet ﷺ said you can't even do that. This is how important it is. Now, if these things, my brothers and sisters, if we were to apply them, it will play a significant role in ensuring that we are in the correct frame of mind. Our mindset, our heart is now or can now be exposed to receiving the advice and the admonition and the wahi and the revelation that is being spoken about. And so the second practical step that I would like to remind myself and all of us here, ensure that you bring your heart with you to the masjid as well. Make sure you bring your heart to the masjid when you come. Now, it is no doubt, it is a beautiful and amazing thing to see the efforts that people make to attend the Friday prayer at the expense of their study and their work and other obligations. However, when we take a quick look at some of us, as the khutbah is being delivered, it makes it apparent that some of our hearts have been left behind. Some of us are targeted heavily by the shaitan. And the best time to sleep is the time of the khutbah. This is how shaitan targets our hearts, and this is how shaitan targets us, so that way we become absent-minded. Now, if this was a gathering of gossip or sports or how to make extra money or how to become a millionaire, how to become rich, we will find ourselves fully engaging, fully energetic and attentive. Now, if the heart is absent, then this khutbah will be of no benefit, even if it was to be repeated every single day of the week. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. That indeed there is a reminder in this for he who has a heart or who listens while he is present in mind. Do not allow your hearts to wander off. And if it does, then chase after it and bring it back to the masjid. The moment you walk into the masjid and you put your shoes in the shoe rack, in the shelf, make sure you also shelve with it every worry you have. Shelve your business concerns, your family worries, your exam stress, the thought of what food you will have later on after this khutbah, or your next Instagram post. Shelve all of that. You come here both physically present as well as with your heart and with your mind, and listen to the khutbah. Empty out your heart from everything, so that way you can have space in your heart for the khutbah and for the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the verses of the Quran. Allah, He says, and He condemns those people who are absent-minded. He says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَسْتَمِعُ إِلَيْكَ حَتَّى إِذَا خَرَجُوا مِنْ عِنْدِكَ قَالُوا لِلَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ مَاذَا قَالَ آنِفًا. And among them are those who listen to you until when they depart from you, they say to those who were given knowledge, what did he just say right now? This is as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's talking about us right now. That there were people who used to even listen to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was giving a khutbah, and when they left, they would say to their friends, to their other sahaba, what did the Prophet just say right now? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He concludes the verse, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ طَبَعَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. Those are the ones to whom Allah has sealed their hearts and who have followed their desires. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to seal our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our hearts attentive and receptive to His revelation. And the third and the last practical step and advice I have with regards to how we can benefit from our Friday khutbahs is feel that as if you are the one who is being addressed. When you hear the khutbah, pretend that you are the one who is being addressed. Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he said, إِذَا سَمِعْتَ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى يَقُولُ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فأرعها سمعك فإنه خير يأمر به أو شر ينهى عنه. Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he said, if you hear Allah saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, then lend an attentive ear, for it is good which you shall be commanded with, or evil which you shall be forbidden from. Meaning, if Allah, He's saying, O you who believe, count yourself from amongst the believers and listen to what Allah has to say. Because anything Allah is going to say is either going to be good that He is commanding you, or it's bad which He is trying to prevent you and forbid you from. And Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, he said, خطب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خطبة ما سمعت مثلها قط فقال لو تعلمون ما أعلم لضحكتم قليلا ولبكيتم كثيرا قال فغطى أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وجوههم ولهم خنين. Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, he said, once the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he gave a khutbah, which in my life I never heard anything like it before. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, if you knew what I know, you would have laughed a little and you would cry a lot. And so the companions, they covered their faces and they started bawling, they started crying. Why? Because the reminder of the Prophet ﷺ shook the companions. Their hearts broke, their eyes shed tears. They truly felt that they were being individually spoken to and not to their neighbors. And one of the greatest signs of a heart that is asleep is when we hear or when we read a reminder, immediately we are thinking what? This is referring to so-and-so. If only so-and-so was listening, or if they were present, they would benefit from it. This is not a sign of a healthy heart. Once there was a man called Dimad, who came into Mecca and he was not yet a Muslim. He heard the ignorant people of Mecca accusing the Prophet ﷺ of being a madman. So he approached the Prophet ﷺ and he said to him, Ya Muhammad, inni arqi wa inna Allah yashfi ala yadi man sha. Fahal lak? O Muhammad, I treat people. I do ruqyah. I treat people and Allah cures people through me. Would you like to be treated? Would you like for me to treat you? The Prophet ﷺ, he responded to him by saying a few words which we hear every single week. He said, Inna alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu, man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lah, wa man yudlil fala hadiya lah, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. So Dimad, he said, أعد علي كلماتك هؤلاء. He said, repeat these words again to me. So the Prophet ﷺ, he repeated these words 3 more times. To which Dimad, he said, لقد سمعت قول الكهنة وقول السحرة وقول الشعراء فما سمعت مثل كلماتك هؤلاء. ثم قال هات يدك أبايعك على الإسلام. He said, I have heard the words of the soothsayers. I heard the words of the magicians and the poets, but I have never heard anything like this before. Give me your hand so that I can pledge allegiance to you. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he said to him, and on behalf of your community as well, he said, and on behalf of my community as well. It was just these few words which turned the life of Dimad and rescued him and his entire community from the hellfire. Look at the effects of the revelation when an open heart listens to it. When a person removes every obstacle from his heart and he feels as if Allah is speaking to him. Likewise, when the verses pertaining to the prohibition of alcohol, they were revealed, the companions who used to drink heavily, what did they do? They felt Allah is addressing them specifically. And so they threw out their barrels of alcohol into the streets. And that was it. They didn't need to go to hospital treatment or rehabilitation program. They opened their hearts to the revelation of Allah. Likewise, when the verses of hijab, they were finally revealed, our mother Salama, she said, خَرَجَ النِّسَاءُ الْأَنصَارِ كَأَنَّ عَلَى رُؤُوسِهِنَّ الْغِرْبَانَ مِنَ الْأَكْسِيَةِ. That the women of the Ansar, they came out looking as if they were crows on their heads because of their clothing. Immediately, they knew that it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking to them directly. It was not sermons after sermons and lectures after lectures and articles after articles and conferences and seminars after seminars which affected them. It was one ayah, one revelation that they felt that Allah is speaking to them directly. And so we may hear an entire khutbah on salah, yet the size of the congregation of Isha salah is still exactly the same. We may hear about the impermissibility of backstabbing or boycotting another Muslim or doing a particular financial dealing or about the Islamic dress code that was understood by the companions or about the audio and the visual materials that displeases Allah or about the abuse or the neglect of a person's wife and children, and yet a person, he leaves the masjid as if he has not heard anything, because he doesn't feel that he was the one being addressed as well. So my brothers and sisters, let's make sure that the next khutbah that we attend be the key which gives you access to turning your life around as was intended by the Prophet ﷺ. Allow the Friday khutbah to play a role in your life, which Allah intended when He offered us this weekly privilege, this opportunity to listen to the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Approach the khutbah, the Friday sermons, with the mentality that says, I want to fix myself every week. I want Allah to be pleased with me this Friday. I am going to find out how to do it. I want to learn something new so I can implement it for the rest of the week. And so it is with this mentality that the treasures of the Friday khutbah will be unlocked for you. And after that, only Allah, He knows of the happiness that He will shower you both in this world as well as in the akhirah. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. عباد الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحاب سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. وارض اللهم عن الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي. وارض اللهم عن الصحابة أجمعين وعن التابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا والمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا اجعلنا مقيمين الصلاة ومن ذريتنا ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا واجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك وأرنا مناسكنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا هب لنا من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم واستغفروه يغفر لكم واتقوه يجعل لكم من أمركم مخرجا وأقيم الصلاة وسووا صفوفكم. My brothers, I request